The most significant changes in real estate that has occurred in many, many years just took effect in August of 2024. How does that affect buyers, sellers, and real estate agents? Coming right up. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Rob Brown, ylprealtor.com. And if you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. It helps me to grow the channel and you won't miss out on future content. So let's talk about these changes. As a result of the NAR settlement, NAR stands for National Association of Realtors. There was a lawsuit there were several lawsuits that occurred. And as a result of the settlement, there have been several changes to the MLS and the way we conduct business in real estate that you should know about if you're thinking about selling a home or you're thinking about buying a home. So let's start with buyers first. First and foremost, I'm really going to be talking about how we transact business here in California. So if you're in another state, make sure that you consult with a local realtor. Probably one of the most significant changes to you as a buyer would be that before you're able to go into a home with a realtor, you actually have to be under contract with that realtor to establish an agency relationship between the realtor and that realtor's broker. There are a lot of terms in the contract, like length of term of the contract when it expires, and buyer's representation compensation. And those terms have to be discussed and adhered to via the contract prior to you looking at a home. Now, there's a lot that can be discussed regarding the buyer's representation agreement and all the terms that are encompassed in that agreement, but that's really for another video. And frankly, if you are a buyer or seller, you really need to talk to a professional real estate agent and see how it affects you on a specific basis with your specific situation. Okay, so let's say you're already under agreement with an agent and you've been shown several homes and you decide to make an offer on a home that you just fell in love with. One of the most important things is that when you make that offer, your agent actually has to write in the buyer's representation compensation into the offer. If that is not done, you could be stuck paying for the agent's compensation on the buyer side, which is your agent as a buyer. And that's why it's imperative as your buyer's agent, as your representative, to address the area of buyer's representation compensation in the RPA or residential purchase agreement when you make an offer. I've had a lot of people ask me about open houses. Rob, if I go to an open house, do I have to sign a contract with an agent that's doing the open house? The answer to that's no. And there's actually been instances where buyers have walked into an open house and have been required to sign a contract. That is not the case. The only reason you might have to sign a contract when you go into an open house is if you start asking specific questions of the agent conducting the open house that would require an agency relationship and actually affects an agency relationship. Okay, we've talked about the buyer side. How do these rule changes affect sellers? Probably the most significant change is that a listing agent representing you as a seller cannot advertise buyer's representation compensation within the MLS or multiple listing service. Now, the MLS also pushes data to all of the consumer websites like homes.com, realtor.com, Zillow, etc. So none of those sites will have any of that information as well either. Now, when it comes time for a buyer's agent to contact the listing agent regarding a showing or maybe even an offer, they may ask the listing agent whether or not there is any buyer's representation compensation being provided by the seller. The listing agent is under no obligation to divulge that information. Some of them will say, yes, there is buyer's representation compensation of 3%, 2.5%, whatever that compensation has been agreed upon by the seller. Some of them may only say simply, yes, the seller is willing to consider buyer's representation compensation, which is why it's so important and imperative that the buyer's agent write it within the offer on the RPA or residential purchase agreement. Okay, so that's a quick summary of some of the aspects of the new rules affecting buyers and sellers through the MLS and during a negotiation of a residential purchase contract. So there is more to it. Obviously, that's just a summary. You need to talk to a professional agent that is knowledgeable and experienced in this arena. And so if you have a question, you can feel free to call me or email me. ylprealtor.com is where you can find all my contact information, or you can call me at 559-580-2370, 559-580-2370. I'll be glad to discuss your specific situation and how these new rules will affect you during a real estate transaction in California. Until next time, thanks for stopping by.